bullshit that you've been told, and you need that info. Sonetta TV, Sonetta TV. Tune in to consciousness and watch the lies fold, then you can let the truth flow. On Sonetta TV, Sonetta TV. When you feel that melanin about to explode, like you feel the wind blow, it's Sonetta TV, Sonetta TV. I know you got the truth, but you can get more, so you continue to grow. Sonetta TV, Sonetta TV.
Peace and Black Power, family. Welcome to another House of Consciousness production. As I continue to bring forth this powerful information, Brother Tarik Bey and Sister Roz Bey. We're going to get this information in, family. Sit back and relax, and let's listen to our brother.
Now, Dr. Ben is one of the greatest teachers, which you already know, and one of the greatest researchers. And Dr. Ben will give you, if you ever checked out Dr. Ben's biography of himself, when he talks about the troubles he went through getting his education.
Right.
And Dr. Ben said when he capped his education, you know, he had gone through all these problems with work, etc. And then when he went to Spain, to the Moorish institutions, universities, that's when he got his real education. And the other issue is to really understand that when you go back into history, 1800s and back, Moor and African are synonymous. One of the things that our people mistake, they look at Moor as being a club or a belief system, which it is not. It's their pedigree, it's the bloodline. And one of the keys of government here in North America, what they call masonry, is actually Moorish science taken into rulership. That's why they rule and we're enslaved. In other words, we've adopted their culture, fell. That's called black culture or dead culture. They adopted our culture, codified it, put it in secret society, and they're ruling the world while we play emotional games on identity. That's what our problem is. And then trying to get our people to look at these things scientifically and from a historical perspective, and if we can get our people to remove their emotions and this competition attitude, they can get back to the law, because our problem is that our birthright is being stolen. And the other key is that our people need to understand the law that governs status and identity in the world. And a lot of times I think some of the things that we talk about, people look at it from an opinion perspective, not understanding law. In law, this is what must be. Like, say for instance, if I was coming to sell you this, in law, if I present this to you as a book and it's only a page, in law, that's a violation.
Right.
In law, if I'm selling you a pit bull and the pit bull goes meow, that's a violation. That would be considered in law civil or mortuus, or dead in the eyes of the law. And one of the problems that our people have is sort of like when we go into our history, we have a tendency to pick up the great things that we have done and put them up like neon signs. And then when we see the ugly parts of what we've done, we try to ignore it like it didn't occur. And so we play this game like we're godly and the Europeans just devilish. And the fact of the matter is, one of the reasons we fell because we violated our own laws. And so we need to know history as it really is, not just as we want to pick and choose and come to the world. Because the issue is that the whole world knows who we are. And while we may play games with each other and play these competition games, the world knows who we are. And our suppression is not accidental.
Well, let me ask you, Brother Taz.
Go ahead.
We are not just Moors. Are we Moors? Are the Kemetic people the same people?
Yes, same people, same people. Okay. This is what what our people don't understand. This is why it's more important for our people to get a knowledge of world history. Moor is the last legal name that these Asiatics who are calling themselves today, Negro, Black, Colored, Afro-American, Soul Brothers, whatever they are this week, that's the last legal name we fell in as the Christians took over. And we must rise as we fell. And this goes back to the point of people not really understanding the law concerning status and the law concerning identity. And one of the keys and the reasons why the Europeans branded us these different names or tags is to remove us from that status. Because in law, and this is what I would suggest you do, go look up in law Inappropriate persona juris, look up the law identity, and then look up competence and incompetence. Then look up wardship, and then we would have this conversation to be very clear to you.
Okay.
And this is what we need to get to our people. No matter what they choose to do, they should at least be aware of what they're judged by the world. And I think a lot of times we look at each other, we judge each other how we feel, what do we think about what our positions may be or may not be. Meanwhile, the world is looking at us because they know the real history.
So what do you think is going to take to bring all of the groups together, regardless of the titles that we go by, like the Black Power groups that's out there, the Muslims?
It'd be very, very, very clear.
Mm-hmm. Because when we all get together, we all fighting and arguing over who we are.
You know what they're arguing? They're arguing identity, aren't they?
Right.
So it's very clear. Let's look at this. So shouldn't it be, if I'm talking to you and we have an issue of identity, would I be talking about buses?
No.
Or should I be talking about what I believe? I should be going to the books of law dealing with the subject matter. Mm-hmm. That's identity.
Right.
And everyone should have that same information. Then we come from that platform to see where we meet in the middle. And what I'm saying to you, once you present to our people, rather than debate with them what they believe or what they don't believe, it's not what you should be doing. We should be dealing with knowledge that deals with the subject matter. Meaning that I'm a contractor. Mm-hmm. If this window was out or these steps fell down, I wouldn't sit in here and be talking about what version or what sect of religion I'm in. I'd be talking about the math that deals with concrete, squares, levels, drills, saws, metal saws, welding, and all the rest. Mm-hmm. And opinions have nothing to do with it, with somebody over here arguing opinions with me. It's irrelevant. Right. And one of the things that we have fallen into, we have been trained so long to mix beliefs with facts that people come together as groups and they introduce their beliefs on the table with facts, and then they debate or they argue, and it's not an intelligent forum. But if our people would study our own history, you would recognize what is the key to why Rome rules today in North America. We're all complaining this, right? We're all complaining about what the Europeans are doing to us, right?
Right.
And guess what they're ruling with? They're ruling with Islam. Even though publicly they claim Christianity, most of our people are not aware that Masonry is Islam, the science. They disrespect it because they're disrespecting the fact that the European is ruling us because they're angry at what he's done to us. Logically, we would be. It doesn't remove the fact that he's ruling and governing, not us. And it doesn't remove the fact also is that he's using Islam, the science, to run the world, which is what Masonry is now. The fact that our people aren't aware of that doesn't change that. But they need to be made aware of this so they can decide how is it that they're going to approach our problems here intellectually. Meaning, how is it, if I was to fly we were to fly right now into Saudi Arabia or any Muslim country, etc., they would accept us as family because we're Muslims. That's our bloodline. Do you understand? And that's our history. Whether we accept it or not, it's still our history. But guess what? They're not so much concerned on how or what sect we belong to as they are concerned with our civil law. What constitutional principles are we standing on? And they'll measure you by that. And if you go into any civilized society claiming to be names that you are not, don't worry, you will be mistreated. Because every man, woman, and child on this planet is bound to honor their mothers and their fathers. And this is one of the reasons why King Simon is sponsoring this trip to Washington, D.C. King Simon, can you come over just for a second, brother? Because one of the things that we wanted to, one of the things that we wanted to express to the people is to take them to Washington, D.C., to show them some things themselves. See, because when you present information to people, they usually revert to how they feel about it, or they start comparing it to their teacher, which is not relevant necessarily. And this is the way we've been trained. Not that that's logical, it's the way we've been trained. You know it, I know it too. People do that in religion too. You know, if my preacher didn't say it, then it ain't so. If he doesn't back it up, it ain't so. And people need to be trained to study, They need to know the tools that all pristine schools use to study. They need to know etymology. They know words. As an example, this is an example, give you a perfect example that could help our people. For instance, many of our people think that they're black, right? All scholars know that black is an English word. It's in the 14th century, 14th century, medieval period. It is no older than 500 years old on the planet, and in its original Lower German form, it actually means pale, because it referred to the Paleolithic man, which is the troglodyte nigger, which is descendants of cavemen, which is Europeans, and not us. However, our people will insist that they're black. Doesn't make it true. It just makes it that's one of the brands that the Europeans put on us, and we bought into it. That's all. And it doesn't mean we weren't called that, but it doesn't make that who you are. Now, scholars know that we're not black people, but we believe we are because that's one of the brands that we've accepted. You know, just because you accept something doesn't make it true. Now, example, you can take a child. You know, adults usually debate with you. But you can take a child, 3rd grade, take them to a dictionary and say, give me the part of speech of the word black, and they're looking at this adjective. So if it's an adjective, now say, is an adjective a proper noun? Child will say no. Adult will say it is. That's where our problem is.
So what do you say to those when you're dealing with history going back into ancient Kemet, when Osiris called himself the Lord of the perfect black, which shows that we've been using the term black for thousands of years.
Now this
even
is what you find. No. Listen what
yes, sir.
Yourself. What we have done is taking European translations of Kemetan or Kematan history into Lower German, which is English, which is English is a branch of that, and adopted it to the ancient world. It is not true. Now, when you go into ancient Kematan culture and you deal with Asar, Aset, when you deal with Ma'at, all those principles, all of those are cosmological forces given personalities. And this is another violation that we have made with our own people by not telling them that truth. And so what happens is, I guarantee you, I can take you amongst Europeans, the same Europeans that our people are talking against, and guess what lessons they get? Them same lessons that we're talking about right now, those Kematan lessons, because that's masonry. I'm telling you what it is now. What people accept or not, that's on them. But one thing is for sure, this European's ruling in our land over us, and we're catching hell, sitting around playing belief games and competing with each other like we some kind of gangster rappers, like it's totally ill, it's juvenile, it's really sick, and it shows the world that we are not competent. My position is, in spite of the BS, which it is BS, is to try to get some knowledge across to our people, and you give them some knowledge and let them go from that foundation, not accept anything that you believe, because it ain't about beliefs, it's about knowledge. And when you go into and this is the other interesting thing, and you can ask Dr. Ben will tell you, as soon as you start going into what is known as Egyptology, or so-called African history, immediately, as soon as you get past the 17th century, you go immediately into Moorish history. And then here you go around with many people who have produced a lot of books, and they put black in them, and so when they go into the history, they don't want to change their position because they see there's a compromission. And then the people who receive this literature may question them, then they're put in a position to try to justify their position because all scholars know that black is an English word. It has no ancient history.
Let me ask you this question.
Do you understand? That's the point that I'm making.
I ask a lot of Moors this question, but now I stand here before the master teacher of history of dealing with the ancient Moors. During the time of ancient Kemet, where was the Moors at that time?
This is what people don't understand. What is known as ancient Kemet, which is Kemet, is the capital empire of the Moorish Empire. That's what you need to know. We're one and the same people. Our concepts are wrong because we keep dividing ourselves against each other as if we're different people. We are absolutely the same people. This is where the problem comes in, Sinetta. Many people do not understand the function of the social engineering that the European did. So when they look at black, they're looking at black from a perspective of identity, right? They're looking at it from a perspective of identity. When the European calls us black, he's using it from an engineering perspective. for classification purposes. And if our people would understand that much, because it is a fact, improvable fact, then they would look at it different. Whereas, like, for instance, like, you'll find a lot of Asiatics, when you're talking to them, you're saying you're not black, they're looking from the perspective like you're trying to take their identity from them. You're looking at it from the fact that it's an engineering word. And so because we're looking at it from two different perspectives, it appears to be a clash. Now, a scholar, you can reason with a scholar because you can tell a scholar, well, go to the etymology and then the debate is over. But you tell a person that just deals with beliefs, they're going to argue with you all night because they don't even know where you're coming from because they don't have an education. While admitting that we've been miseducated. That's what the problem is, trying to get an uneducated people to respect education. And they're debating with what they believe against facts, which is you're trying to get them away from that venue. And they're fighting you because they're looking at, you know, I'm a man, you're a man, my opinion, your opinion. And believe me, if we don't reduce that amongst our people, we're shot, we're done. Because our people lack education. And and this is key. Every Asiatic, and this is, I'm glad that you placed the issue of Kamat. Because this is one of the greater problems with the Asiatics of the North. Is that when we go into Asiatic history and African history, we have been trained to hone in just like a tunnel vision, right to Kamat. Wrong concept. When you study African history, if you're not studying world history, you're not studying African history.
That's right.
That is how the European has disconnected us from power. Because the concept, we keep looking at concept of root. When I say concept of root, where the root is, as if it didn't spread, if it went nowhere else. And so therefore the Asiatics don't relate to the plateaus in Yucatan. Even some of the pyramids, which are older than the pyramids in Giza, they don't relate to that as their own, because their concept is our relationship here in the North is only from European diaspora, which is a fraud. We was always here.
That's right.
And then pyramids along the Mississippi that are thousands of years old and much older than the pyramids in Giza. These Asiatics were here just like they was there. And if any Asiatic really wants to understand how to bring our people together, what we need to do, honestly, is get rid of some of our own ancient hatreds and start looking at history for what it really is and start recognizing that the only reason why these Europeans are ruling here is because of the Renaissance. And the culture of the Renaissance is codified in Masonry.
That's right.
And the Moors brought that Renaissance to Europe.
Yes.
And that's why the Constitution, that's how that Constitution that is governing now has a relationship to our people and to Kamat that they don't even look at from that perspective. They keep looking at the power here as something totally separate from Kamat. That's where we make our mistake.
Right.
When you stand in here, think Africa. When you look at the power that runs the world, look at Africa. When you think of those big rulers that's going to and fro the earth, devouring the nations, understand the power of government from Kamat. And that's M-A-A-T, not M-E-T. Do you understand? So our greatest mistake is assuming that because you and I, you understand, or put on an ankh or wear our colors, you understand what I'm saying? And think that we got something on this European. This European got the top, most sublime level of Kamatan psychology, Kamatan symbiology, Kamatan etymology, Kamatan orthology, Kamatan symbolism, Kamatan philosophy, and know more about Dawoodi Diuenti, that they call Tahuti, that they call Hermes Trismegistus, which is the culture of our people that our people then played off because they want to be believers. That's why we're schooled. Because we get this attitude that we're the powerful gods of earth. Don't even know the word God is only 500 years old, and it's a German word.
That's right.
And that came from Germans who studied the people of the Moorish dynasty in the area that is known as Perot, that was later called Hindustan, that you call today India. And the first ones who studied us were called Aryans. That's where the European got the term Aryan. It ain't no race. It is the first students of Kodam who studied you. And that culture they called Got, from which the word God came from. It is a verb transitive. It's not even a noun. So I'm saying to you, when our people don't really know their own history in the world, their concepts are wrong because we keep looking only at Kamat as we see it in symbolism. Wrong concept.
Beautiful teaching from one of the grandmaster teachers out here. I mean, that's beautiful, brother. Sarnetta gets schooled by one of the best teachers dealing with the Moorish history.
And my point is,
yes,
this
sir.
is my point, Sarnetta. We're looking at Europe even owning Europe. They don't even own Europe. Even that is yours under the Druids. Now I'm going to tell you another key. You know why? Hakeem, family, come back over, brother. You know why you hear the term, just like in the early servitude days here, when they talk about the pickaninnies? They called our children the pickaninnies. Right. You know why? Because we're the Picts who ruled in Europe before we assented the land to them. That's why the Pope got the Moor of Freising, the king of Freising, in his coat of arms.
Now, when you said we're the Picts, what you mean by that? Like,
Meaning,
we're the Picts.
Now, the Dubs, the Picts, that's why our people need to know all history. Because these are the same people that brought the culture from what you call Kemat. Because we ruled there too. Our concepts are wrong. We are the Druids. And that Stonehenge is an astrological observatory chamber. That's ancient. And that's your real culture. And also that's what Masonry is too. Now when you look at, you take all the signs, example, who is Libra?
Mayat.
Oh, all right.
And Venus.
Exactly.
And Aphrodite.
Now.
And Esther.
And
Easter.
Isis.
And Isis. And Ishtar.
What is the name of the first man on the planet? Now that's maintained in the secret societies and in the attic chambers of the mystery schools of Egypt. Aisha. Now is that masculine or is it feminine? Oh, please. I'm telling you, brother, there's a lot that our people need to know. But most of all, we need to learn to love instead of hate. And if you pay attention to us, and you know because you've been dealing with this a long time, you deal with a lot of people from a lot of walks of life, you've traveled, you understand, and you know, and anything comes to New York, if it comes to New York, it's been seen someplace else. I mean, you know what I mean? If it's seen someplace else, you want to see it in New York.
That's all. Right there.
Now,
En la Borinqueña.
Sarnetta. Now, let hold this for me for a minute. Now, let me give you an example. You can take, you know, and this also is indicative how other Asiatics come from other countries and they immediately come in our communities. Like, say you out there busting it. You down there busting, you've been busting it for years, right? Right. But say one of them stores is empty down there that you've been working in front of for years, right? So now here comes the man talking to you about a license or not, or vending license, etc. Remember, this is a European.
Right.
He ain't American, he's European. Our people call him American, wouldn't they? Giving up their birthright. You see what our problem is? Because we don't even know basic geography and basic sociology and anthropology. We violated law, and then you give him the sovereign power, then he got you paying him a tax for operating on your own land. Because our people are disconnected from the land. Now I just want to make this other point to you too. Ordinary dictionary, right? Merriam-Webster's dictionary, right? No secret, right?
Right.
Black, right? There's black.
Right.
Adjective, right?
Right.
Middle English, isn't it? That shows you the etymological origin, right?
Right.
Right. Now, Middle English, when you see the brackets, that gives you the history of the word.
Right.
It goes not past the medieval period or the mid-century. Most of our people do not know how to read a dictionary. These are keys that was given to Malcolm. That's what woke him up to his second degree. You understand? When he thought he had it covered. Then when people recognize that he woke up, a lot of people can't get in his pockets no more, so now somebody's been playing with us. But he wouldn't take the payoff, so they got rid of him. But the truth is what it is. It is what it is, not what we want it to be. Now, Now, this is just a basic dictionary, but if you had a good dictionary, it would give you an etymological breakdown or development of words. And right here, you have black or Moor.
Right.
Then it's a noun, and it's irregular, and then it's black, which is the adjective, and you see a small case, right? Mm-hmm. Then plus Moor, which is capitalized because that's the proper noun, right? And that's a dark-skinned person, especially black, etc. And the other dictionary says African American, whatever they call them, but that's the identity. Everybody knows who we are except us.
Right.
And you present this to our people, and they will try to take that and make that like it never even happened. You know why? Because they've been writing all their books in black.
Okay, I heard a few Moors will say that Moor means black.
They'll say means. Mm-hmm. Now, let's look like this. I'm going to show you this. They'll tell you that Kemet means black. Yeah. Then they'll tell you that Ham means black. Yeah. Then they'll tell you that the Ankh means black. Mm-hmm. Then they'll tell you that Moor means black. Mm-hmm. Then they'll tell you that Moroccan means black. Then they'll tell you Ethiopian means black. Then they'll tell you that Arab means black. Then they'll tell you that Abyssinia means black.
That's right.
Now, black is a Middle English word which I just showed you, which is contemporary. And so what has happened is we have taken a definition that is European, totally contemporary, provably contemporary, and then keep taking it and putting it retroactive in history when they didn't mean none of that. They meant exactly what they meant. Kemet means Kemet. Ankh means Ankh. It's a regenerative geometrical symbol of the uterus and the fallopian tubes in the birth canal of women, because all Asiatic culture were matriarchs and not patriarchs. And what happens is we keep going into Asiatic history with a patriarchal mind from the patriarchs of Rome, and then going into our so-called divine, sublime, Kamatan history with that patriarchal mind. That's why we're so damn corrupt. And then we're so damn hypocritical, we don't want to accept it because we think somebody's going to take our balls off. No, that's what's wrong with us. Right. We're full of it. You know, because we got issues. And that's the truth. And people need to tell us to our face that, you know, we punked out. Because we're scared because we don't know how to handle women, so we keep on trying to dominate them like the Christians did when they took over and destroyed the matriarchal system. That's what the patriarchy is all about. And if the people don't believe it, they need to go into European history and let the European tell them themselves, because he got it written down. He didn't hide it. He even got it in the King Alfred plan. What do they do in military plans when they conquer a nation? They study the woman. Study the being as it comes from the womb of woman and operates from that point, because they deal with the math of how things work, not what our opinions are, not even what their beliefs are that they pump on people, because they don't believe the stuff they pumping on people themselves. That's what mind control. You know it and I know it.
That's right.
Our problem has been is that we keep getting this idea that the Muslim world didn't hold people to slavery. We keep looking at it just the Christians did it. That's what our problem is. You know what I mean? And let's look at this like a real deal. When Il Malik woke up, was it some holy roly great Muslim brother that came to wake him up? No, it was a blue-eyed French Muslim that woke him up, told him he didn't leave home. I mean, he didn't visit home just because he's making the hides with this black and white game. He left home. But that was a great Masonic secret that he wasn't supposed to find out. Then he was uncomfortable now, because now he done found out the great Masonic secret. He's over there calling the white man devil, and the white man telling him he ain't white man. They don't even know it's a status. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
White and black are statuses. They're legal statuses. And so our people are looking at them as identities. This is where the clash comes, because they lack understanding. Meaning that, me too. I mean, I'm for the power of our people. Now, like, say, for instance, you say you're for black power. You're for our people.
Right. That's what I mean when I say
and I'm for you for our people. But when you say black power, you just cast them right into the lowest class of society. But it is only not for a lack of sincerity. It's a lack of knowing what it means in an engineering perspective. And so a social engineer recognizes it immediately. A person who's just passionately battling for the rights of their people are not looking at it from that perspective. So they're innocent victims of linguistics and law. Now, what happens is, if a brother come try to wake them up, we're all passionately, you know, because we got to do this thing now, right? You know, we're trying to fix something. So now we're frustrated, but our passions are blinding us to that we are casting ourselves in the lowest caste of society. I suggested you do this too, and this for Asiatics. Go into one of the great historians that's recognized all over the world, David McRitchie. That's European. And they'll tell you in the history that black and white are legal statuses. They have nothing to do with complexion.
Nope, not at all.
And guess what? That's not just here. That's all over the world. Our people here who's been miseducated from European colonialism are the only ones that don't know it. And we keep on arguing the low status and then get mad because people treat us accordingly.
Right.
So when the Moors say that they not black, but
That's why they're talking status.
But they will say, I'm a free white person.
Yes,
You're
now
dealing with status.
go get the law book.
You ain't dealing with the color of complexion.
Now, come on. And if we could get that, if we could get our people away from the emotions,
these black with the
if we
brown.
could get our people away from the emotions of defending a habit that we've been trained to. See, because just like the youth today don't know that a few generations ago, where there was still some consciousness left, if you called an Asiatic or African black, you had a fight. Because they knew you was classifying them. But our people have been miseducated, and so now they think it's an identity. But I say to you right now, like, all right, red, black, and green, right? So I can pull down right now a map, show you Tamari, Kibalan, you understand, Kamat, that you call Africa today, that people generally call Africa today. And you see any Asiatic that come from Africa, they will never come here talking about their Africans. They will come here telling you their national name. The people that do that African stuff is us here who trying to get back mentally. But we don't recognize that they recognize that we got mental issues. They don't debate with us, they just put a glass between us like everybody else and do business and get away from us before we try to destroy them, try to encourage them to give up their birthright, because they ain't giving up their birthright just because we gave up ours, because we want to follow behind emotionalism. It doesn't mean the desire to be free is wrong. That's not wrong. We've mixed it with miseducation. And we refuse to let that miseducation go, while admitting that we're miseducated. That's where our problem is. This is legal. This is legal Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition. Now listen. All persons down there where they're dealing with Bouvier's, Webster also has a law dictionary. There's multiple law dictionaries, but this is the major one that is used by all persons in government. And it's not just here. It's across the planet. And it deals with ancient and modern jurisprudence. And jurisprudence is the science that treats of positive law. These are fundamentals that should be given to anyone that has a basic education. And if anyone's talking about rights or rights of people and then don't know fundamental jurisprudence, they're already in trouble, because if somebody can be trying to help them and they won't even recognize who's trying to help them or who's against them. This is where our problem is. And so it frustrates people who may come amongst us and try to help us, Islam says, and we start getting all defensive and hostile when actually they're reaching out to us, only because we don't understand the language. And if it's not something that we're not familiar with hearing in the hood, we reject it. But that's wrong. We must understand we're in the hood because it's a caste system. But if our forefathers were ruling, we would not be in the hood. We'd be in the university. You know, all they need to do is go into Kamatan history and Kamatan culture, and even coming up to when Islam was corrupted and put into a ritualistic system as opposed to actually the scientific system. And you'll see that libraries were as common in our homes as a kitchen is. Whereas now it's reversed. You know, and so now when most people get into Islam, they just look at the Quran, read the Quran, bounce back and forth. The symbols that they see of the hybrid persons that are in the East now, that's not Islam.
It's not Islam, that's Hadith.
That's exactly what it is. They ran Prophet Muhammad out. They wasn't hearing it.
It's Hadith.
Because the truth is too strong, it's too stern.
Right.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Now, and so what they do with the Quran, actually what it was is this. You had books on every discipline of life: biology, mathematics, calculus, Do you understand? Etymology, language, anatomy, and the fundamental of how it's all rooted would be in cosmology, which is the foundation of the culture, which is expressed in all the symbolisms in Kamat. This is why anyone that deals with any secret societies, at the base of their instruction is always Kamat.
Let me ask you a question here. I asked a few Moors this question. The Moors was the navigators of the 7 seas. How did the so-called white man get past the Moors get into Africa?
Look what you just said. Look what you just said. Look, this whole thing of taking us out. This is the diaspora thing. Here we go. Europeans thought the world was flat. Am I right? By their own records, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, check this out. Now, here we are, the Asiatics. We built all these pyramids, doing all this, as we like to say, God stuff. Right? All this deep wisdom stuff, right? And so we stand on next to the pyramid like this and mind our business. And all of a sudden, white man, who wasn't called white then, the records will prove that, we're making it retroactive again, falsehood, retroactive, came up, put chains on us, and took us to the hells of North America, and we've been catching hell ever since.
No, but hold on,
Let's look at concept. This is not for you.
Right.
This is for people buying into that.
Okay, right.
These same Europeans, if they got 50 feet off the shore and saw a dolphin, the captain was in trouble because he was a monster. Mutiny was the next step. You understand that? Meanwhile, they taking hundreds and hundreds of all these wise Asiatics who built pyramids, all these mathematicians, scientists, and gods of the earth type thing. And meanwhile, we're mesmerized because they're white people, never seen them before. And meanwhile, so they build up factories and stuff like that. They don't know nothing, but building up factories and we're just watching them because we're still amazed, you know, it's hypnotized. Then, before we can come out of our stupor, they chain everybody together and take just hundreds of people and stack them like sardines on ships, good ship Jesus and all this stuff, right? Anybody that fishes, anybody around here fishes? Yeah. Right now, we can go out on the water. Summertime, right? When you go and fishing on that water, what do? You wear winter clothes. Why? Because you'll catch a cold as soon as the sun comes down. Right? All right. Hold on. And you can't drink salt water, right?
Right.
And water is one of the most heavy and unstable elements. Am I correct?
Yes.
But it's necessary for any short voyage, less more long voyage.
That's right.
We brought water when we came up here in the van. Anyhow. Now, also on ships, in shipping lanes, you need ballast, don't you? Right? And you've got to have compartments to stabilize the water, and you need a lot of water, even for the crew, less more anyone that you're doing is cargo. And you got 300 and 400 people stacked like that. Let me tell you something like that. You know why they're all drawings? Because they're all drawings.
That's all.
So are you saying the slave trade never existed?
No, the slave trade existed, but not like as they presented it.
Okay.
And the other thing that people need to know, a lot of the so-called plantations here in North America were Bonnevilles. And them Bonnevilles belonged to Moors.
Right.
When the Europeans stole the history, he stole the good and the bad. So what happens is we keep coming into this knowledge with this self-righteous attitude that all slaves were Asiatics. Well, not true.
Right, I know that.
You know, now, and then you have this history of when the Christians took power of them constantly lynching Moors, etc., etc., etc. That is Inca Terra Divina policy of dividing the Moorish empire amongst the Christian nations. That's why they did the Christian Black Codes of 1724, and I think number 3 is where they started commanding all the Asiatics to go to church or they'd be confiscated. That's where we got our go to church to Sunday tradition. It ain't got nothing to do with our culture. It has to do with European Christian conquest. Right here. The lynchings have to do with taking us out of power.
That's right.
The other issue is people need to pay attention to the history. Here, remember just before the Civil War, in that period, when they told it was Asiatics who were senators and congressmen, step down or die? Who do you think was in government?
Sure wasn't them, it was us.
And why do you think they tell the people that George Washington was the first president when he was actually the ninth?
No people. Right.
So they could block out that history so you don't start examining it and finding out that you're standing on Northwest Africa. You're in Africa. That's why they keep building jails. You know we do some stuff. I ain't got to tell you that. We do some stuff. How come we ain't never deported?
Right.
Because we home.
Because you're home. They just keep building jails.
They can't deport
Now, and then look at King Alfred. You already know, brother's been talking about King Alfred for years, right? Doing all kind of radio shows on it, all kind of DVDs on it. But don't they keep missing the section in there? Give me King Alfred. I'll show you something that they keep conveniently overlooking. And you already know King Alfred is a military plan, and it wasn't meant for public review. And even when they issued it heavily redacted, and even then only pieces here, and then it takes scholars to really pick through it to really kind of understand, even though you got the concentration camps and other things like that. But let's look at this reality. King Alfred, being a military plan, you know what they talk about, and it's an interesting thing that we was talking about it on our way up here, because we already know, you know, the thing with the economy and all this crap that's going on. They talk about, as these Asiatics wake up, they say, you know, the time is going to come, you know, when these people are going to take to the streets with a desperate and dangerous will. Because they know people ain't going to have jobs, you know, whole deal, so they got to deal with this thing, right? And you know what? It's in there, and I want to express this to you so that you can go check it out on yourself on your own papers. It says they are bound to the continent by heritage.
By heritage.
Here it is. King Alfred Plan. Sinetta, King Alfred Plan, right?
Yes, sir.
King Alfred Plan, Executive Order 11490.
11490.
Right? So let's look right here.
Rex 84.
Let's look right here, and it's Rex 84 too, which you already know.
84, that's right.
Attorney General, preliminary memo, Department of Defense, right? This memo is being submitted in lieu of a full report from the Joint Chiefs of Staff. That report is now in preparation. There will be many cities where the minority, you know, that's one of the brands they put on us, will be able to put into the street a superior number of people with a desperate and dangerous will. Key, he will be a formidable enemy, for he is bound to the continent
By heritage.
by heritage.
Islam. So
Where are you standing?
Right here in the wilderness of North America.
It ain't, the only wilderness is in our head.
in your head.
You are bound
In North
to
Africa.
this continent exactly by heritage. Now you understand what I see is on
Yes,
the back
sir.
of that dollar bill and no one speaks under it? And why Illuminati uses it, since we won't? Because they got our birthright.
That's right. It's Islam, bro.
And why Masons would say, I've been to the mountain top,
Right.
and I seen the promised land.
Promised
Might
land.
not get there with you because I'm getting ready to break my oath.
Right. Exactly.
You get the whole point?
Right.
And then they eliminate them, don't they?
Yes, sir.
Islam.
So everybody knows us but us.
Right.
And here we are debating the non-debatable, because we are bound to this continent by heritage.
That's right.
Hold on. He will be a formidable enemy, for he is bound to the continent by heritage and knows that political asylum will not be available to him in other countries. So where they think they're going? You're home.
Islam.
And Drawley been trying to tell these Moors this since 1913,
For the longest.
and COINTELPRO agents keep on trying to counter them. And the whole world knows who we are.
Still ain't getting it.
See why other people come here and can immediately make economic progress and we can't? Because we're under Inca-terror policy.
Inca-terror policy. That's right.
It ain't racism. There's only one race on the planet, is the human race, and the human race has expanded into families which are called nations and nationalities. And without that, don't talk about national law protection or international law protection, because it doesn't apply to people who are not of a nation, and we are not black people.
Right.
I can show you a map right now of Africa, and I can show you 54 jurisdictions, and not one of them say Blackadonia, not one of them say Negro Dina, not one of them say Caladifia. It doesn't exist. They're all brands.
Right. Definitely.
And if you take that amongst the African brother and start calling him that, watch how quick he turns off from you.
Okay.
Now, let's deal with law. Free white persons is a legal term. Free white persons refer to the Naturalization Act as amended by Act July the 14th, 1870. Now remember the Knights of Columbus and Ku Klux Klan oath in 1854 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and up to 63 in Chicago, Illinois.
Right.
All right, when they took on the title
That's right.
of white persons at the Whittemore Party under Horace Greeley, who was a top newspaper tycoon right here in New York.
That's right. Right here, right in the 5
Yes,
points.
it's exactly correct.
Right here in the 5 points.
And they converted the Whittemore Party to the White Party, to the Republican
Now
Party.
it's the cause
Exactly.
to
Then the
Republican.
Europeans start taking on the title white people.
Yeah. There you go, right there. Even the term black is in there.
Thank you, Sabir. He the man. Nature knows no color. That's Joel A. Rogers, one of the world's greatest known scholars, right? Here, another important fact. There is good reason to believe that the families and names as Negro, Moor, and their derivatives who do not have blacks in their coats of arms had Negro ancestors. Also, still another proof of the presence of early Negroes in England is that of the Moorish dance. Moorish dance because they're Moors. These are brands that was put on us as we lost power.
Right.
Now, and anyone can find that, you know, it's not a secret. But the point of it is that I'm saying to you, any scholar will find that. So why would a scholar debate that? You understand? In other words, it's like this. Why would someone get all upset when they find out that Africa is a contemporary name and it's not ancient?
Contemporary name, right?
And it's Kamat.
It's Kamat.
And anciently, a Mexim.
A Mexican Islam.
And then you go to the German map maker, Weissmuller,
Weissmuller.
right? And you see when the Europeans start changing the map, and you see North America, etc., and it'll say what? A Mexim.
That's right, a Mexican.
And then Noble Drew Ali told the people that, oh, he a black Muslim guy,
Exactly.
because you know he ain't from our sect.
Exactly.
What the hell? That's what our problem is. We don't want to deal with knowledge. Our people have learned to think that knowledge is corny, square, geek, all that kind of crap. When actually it is that is needed to bring them out of the condition that they're
into the
in.
marvelous
But
light.
our real problem is, and you know it, all you got to do is really pay attention. Our people is down with pictures.
Right.
You give them some knowledge and they go blank. You give them a book and their eyes get glassy. Oh, I'll get to it, yeah, man, because what we really need to do is get down now. It's about studying what was presented, analyzing it etymologically and at law, and reclaiming your birthright.
Okay, now, if we are studying and examining Noble Drew Ali, why is it there's so many different sets of Moors? And some Moors believe this, some Moors don't believe that.
I agree with you 100%.
That's the confusion that we're going on too.
I agree with you 100%. Now you go into the FBI papers, COINTELPRO, and look at the infiltration, or what is known as the Great Sellout. And you'll notice that, and a lot of people get uncomfortable, as soon as you get into the FBI papers and you look at this COINTELPRO infiltration and the big payoffs, all of a sudden, as they tried to dissolve the Moorish movement, your major so-called black movement organizations all started between 30 and 34 after the Great Sellout.
And with that, we say Islam, peace. Thank you, Brother Taj. It's been a pleasure, brother. All right, my man. Beautiful, beautiful teaching.
That's for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Peace and love.
Thank you, brother.
Right.
Can we keep some of these here?
So, yes, that's what I'm rolling for you.
Oh, they are.
What the definition of free white persons is. It'll tell you that it includes Celtic, Iberians, Moorish inhabitants of Spain and Portugal, mixed Greek, Latin, and Phoenician. You know who was a Phoenician? Hannibal.
Okay.
Right, and North African inhabitants, right? See what it says here?
It does not.
Does not mean
the Caucasian race.
Islam.
We just don't do any studies to know.
That's right.
So see, that's our.
This is the definition of a Moor. In ancient history, a native of Mauritania, a region in North Africa corresponding to parts of Morocco and Algeria. In later times, one belonged to a people of mixed Berber and Arab race, Mohammedan in religion, who constitute the bulk of the population of northwestern Africa, and who in the 8th century conquered Spain. In the Middle Ages, and as late as the 17th century, the Moors were commonly supposed to be mostly black or Swarthy, though the existence of white Moors was recognized, and hence the word was often used for
Negro. Those who say they're Negroes,
But
they're
see, I don't
Moors.
have a problem with saying I'm a Moor. But I know that's not just what I am. I'm a
do you
Moor,
mean that's not
I'm a Kimite, I'm all of that. All of that
We just
comes from us. We
explained
just,
them.
right, we just changed names through the periods of time.
Well,
But you're not black.
But I know I'm a Moor. I know that.
I understand.
But do you know
I
you're
also know that I'm a Kimite.
and a free white
Well, see,
person?
And you're
see,
also
right.
a free
See,
white
all
person.
that is all that is synonymous.
Right.
So more just covers the whole gamut. So it like actually alleviates having to say, you know, I'm this and that. We're all one tribe of people.
Okay.
We're all Moors, even though we have different tribes.
Right.
We have the Kemites, Moabites, Canaanites, Hittites, Hammatites, and so forth. But we're all Moors.
Right, right.
You understand what I'm saying, brother? Like, I mean, and like, you know, that's the misconception